This little mini gaming PC is an absolute beast when it comes down to emulation, whether that is playing old school retro stuff like Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, all of that kind of stuff, or even the more modern side of things with PS3, PS2, Nintendo Switch, GameCube, Nintendo 64, all that wonderful, cool, awesome stuff. Now, as far as the I/O that we got on this thing, we got 2 USB-C. That way you can connect a hub if you do end up needing more USB ports, because what I ended up doing is I got that 12 terabyte Kinhank drive on Amazon. Holy moly, that is going to be separate. But yeah, I'm pretty sure you're just as surprised about a 12 terabyte drive full of video games on Amazon as me. So if you need more USB drives, then you're more than capable of getting that. And then there's also the new GPU adapter for these mini PCs, where you basically just put your mini PC on it, and then on the back, the graphics card is going to be sitting there. That is awesome. So the specs I would like to go over with you just before all that review type of stuff to get into the computer. It performs well, so just note that. But either way, really quick, so I don't forget, we got 2 USBs on the front, we got the headphone jack, then we got the power button, we got some cooling on the side. But either way, then on the back, we got the LAN cable, we got 2 HDMI ports if you want 2 displays, you got the power thing, and yeah. So as far as the specs go, we have an 8940HS, 8945HS CPU in this, which is an 8-core, 16-thread CPU that boosts up to 5.2 gigahertz from the factory in this little teeny tiny case, which is awesome. Now, I do want to say this does not have a dedicated graphics card inside of it. It is using the integrated graphics with the 8945HS. But the cool thing about AMD's integrated graphics is that they are actually good. And they're actually good for even the newer modern type of stuff. Yes, 1080p, and yes, you're going to have to mess around with the settings, and yes, it absolutely depends on the game, but you're even capable of getting into the 1440p gaming territory with this CPU for specific games, for the easier to run games. Like, let's use Minecraft as an example. Fortnite I haven't tried in quite some time, but if we go back in time and play Fortnite, like that is another game you could get into the 1440p territory, and you get my point, like smaller indie games and that sort of stuff. However, if you do that, you're probably going to be hovering in that 30 frames per second territory. Either way, you can get the 1080p 60 frames per second. It's also got 32 gigabytes of, hold up, said that incorrectly, gigabytes of DDR5 RAM that is running at 5600 megahertz, and it does come to you that way. They actually went into the BIOS and the motherboard and set everything to that for you. Now, another cool thing about this fella is that we got a 2 terabyte NVMe SSD inside of this. So my thoughts on this gaming PC. I can't believe, like, I've been doing this for quite some time. I run a PC building business. My thoughts on this is it is mind-boggling that we are getting performance like this out of such a, I mean, it literally looks like it's a sandwich. That's exactly the size of a sandwich. That's literally the exact 2 pieces of bread. That's what this looks like with extra peanut butter and jelly. That's the size of this. That is crazy to me, man. I've been into gaming for a very long time, and for me personally, I play video games for memories, and I play video games for nostalgia. And I grew up in the 90s, so a lot of my memories have to do with video games, because back in my day, quote unquote, when a new Super Nintendo game came out and I wanted to play with my friends, I had to go over to my friends, and we would have this like sleepover and hang out together and play the new video games together. Like, dude, I remember playing Super Mario World. This is with my babysitters, like Super Mario World, Yoshi's Island, Battletoads, Nickelodeon Guts. Those were the main ones. Those were definitely the main ones. Yeah. But then we get into like the other stuff. Like we had the movie store where we go rent video games, and it was like the babysitter. Like I would have my buddy Josh at the babysitter, like come home, we go home and like play the games together. And dude, it was just it was a different time. It was a different time, and it was like, so either way, I'm getting a little bit sidetracked here. The reason I was explaining that is because like I'm pretty big into the emulation stuff. Like there's a reason that I'm always buying these like little consoles from Amazon, like the RetroCat, the Kinhank Drive that I literally got for this, the Kinhank devices, the Anbernic handhelds, the ANEO handhelds, like the Miyoo Mini Plus, the Miyoo Mini, like all of these handhelds, man, and these like retro emulation consoles. I understand that games are games. They're all pretty similar. They're all going to have pretty much the exact same games and that kind of stuff. But it's like, remember going to the arcade and you have a beat 'em up with another beat 'em up right next to it, but they're literally the exact same game, but this cabinet looks cool and this cabinet looks cool as well. It's like we got Ninja Turtles versus Street Fighter. Yes, fully aware everybody's going to be like, oh, those are two totally different games. You get my point. I can't think of anything like off of the top of my head. The reason I'm explaining that is because it's just like, it's that vibe experience, you know, like the interfaces on these are all different. A lot of them have like different like homebrew games on them from people like creating custom versions of the older games that you grew up with, which is definitely my favorite area to explore pretty much all of the time, unless I'm seeing like, I follow a lot of the older retro video game channels. Like I love SNESGrunk. He's one of my favorite channels. Like ETA Prime, I've seen quite a few. Mad Little Pig, like a lot of the older, like I follow a lot of them. And when I see them like reviewing like the older games and I see one that like interests me, I want to go ahead and go and play that, which actually is, I'm actually going to go ahead and do this like right now, because I think that that's kind of funny that this just barely came up with it like sitting right in front of me. So I have like this playlist. I got Nicktoons Battle for Volcano, which is on the PS2. I think that looks kind of cool. It looks like something that I would enjoy. We got the Great Battle series on the Super Nintendo. We got Magical Poppin', which is like an unreleased video game over from Japan, which looks really awesome. We have Kirby Superstar. No idea why I never played that. I've played a lot of the Kirby games, but that's got like 7 different types of games built right into it. And we got the Batman for the NES. Inspector Gadget it was actually one that I grew up with. Like Goof Troop, didn't realize there was a Sega Genesis version of Goof Troop, so I want to go and try that. The Flintstones video game. I have a memory of the movie Flintstones, like the movie game, because there's 2 Flintstone video games on the Super Nintendo. So I have this memory of that movie version of the Flintstones games, and that was not a fun game. It was terrible. And because of that, I just like, I don't want to play the Flintstones. But then I saw like a game, like I saw some footage of it and I'm like, oh, this is a totally different game. I want to go try that. And it's like, then I have these, you know, memories of like stuff where it doesn't even have to do with the video game, but it has to do with the show that I was watching as I was a kid, because the difference between like games being released now and games being released like back then is that a lot of people can go ahead and argue that these were not like the best games, but it doesn't really matter to me, because I am there for the memories and I am there for the nostalgia, and that's really what I am there for. I'm not there to have the best experience. So the reason I was explaining that is because, you know, like the Game Boy Advance is the perfect example of this. Like the Game Boy Advance, if there was a cartoon on TV, without a single doubt, it is going to be on the Game Boy Advance, and there's probably going to be 2 or 3 games of that show on the Game Boy Advance. You know it, I know it, everybody that's ever had a Game Boy Advance knows it. And the best part about this is, again, the modified version of these titles that I'm building my own with this, with the Kinhank thing, which for those of you that are unaware and that are looking into getting that drive on Amazon, which I'm sure is, there's a lot of people that are, it's going to be very popular with you. you need to install a malware program, and you need to scan that before you start installing everything on it. And like, you need to set up your computer. There's a little command that you can do where you can set this up where you don't connect to the internet. Just Google it, it'll be your best friend. So while I do recommend that drive, there's certain steps you need to take in order to be safe with that. And I'm not saying that if you install everything that your computer is going to be corrupted, but there is that chance of doing that. And there are people that have had problems with different sellers selling different versions of that, which is causing problems with people. So that's why I'm saying you need to scan that. And why, honestly, it's why I haven't uploaded any content on it, is because I don't feel comfortable recommending something like that to people that I know are probably a little bit inexperienced when it comes down to the emulation scene, and are going to get themselves into trouble because of that. So that's why I haven't made any content on that, is because it's such a massive drive. It's a long time for me to create content on that. Basically what I am doing is I've set up Launchbox, which is a front end. You can also get Big Box, which gives you that like arcadey type feel that these like plug and play consoles come with. It is a paid subscription you need to pay for, but the normal Launchbox is free. But regardless, man, awesome computer, incredible for emulation no matter what you do, and you're going to be able to upscale all of this stuff as well. So yeah, I can't recommend this enough. It's been a pretty fun experience for me installing and setting this like console up. It actually has been fun for me, and it's cool to be able to like customize that to my liking and customize that to give me the experience that I am looking for. And this is such a good little gaming PC, and it's obviously great for productivity as well. Like, if it's good for gaming, it's going to be good for productivity, you know what I mean? So yes, overall, highly recommend this thing. Awesome little mini gaming PC. Holy